Picture this, a private island paradise, 72 acres of pure luxury right in the heart of the Caribbean. I mean, it looks like a dream, right? But behind those stunning beaches and fancy villas was a secret so dark it would eventually send shockwaves around the. This place was called Little St. James, and it was Jeffrey Epstein's private kingdom. We are talking about perfect beaches, a huge villa, luxury guest houses, two pools, a gym, even its own helipad. It was basically designed to be the ultimate escape for the super rich and powerful. But that whole paradise thing, it was all a front. Beneath that shiny surface of luxury and A-list parties, this island was the center of some of the most horrific crimes imaginable, where young underage girls were systematically abused. For them, this wasn't a getaway, it was a prison. So you've definitely seen the headlines. It's been all over social media, but what are the Epstein files really? What's actually in them and why is everyone talking about them right now? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. To really get what these files are all about, we've got to go back and understand the man at the center of it all. How on earth did Jeffrey Epstein, a guy from a pretty normal background, become this billionaire who was connected to the most powerful people on the planet? You know, he actually started out as a math teacher in the 70s, but he pretty quickly jumped over to Wall Street. And that's where he got in with billionaires, like the owner of Victoria's Secret, and started managing their massive fortunes. So to the outside world, he was this financial genius. But in reality, he was using all that power and money to prey on innocent young victims. See, Epstein's empire wasn't just built on money. It was really built on his connections. He spent years building this huge network of the world's elite, flying them around on his private jet, which the media later and pretty grimly nicknamed the Lolita Express. These connections were like his currency. They gave him this appearance of legitimacy that for years protected him from any real scrutiny. And his social circle, wow. It reads like a who's who of some of the most recognizable names out there. We're talking former presidents like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. Britain's Prince Andrew was known to be a close friend. Even tech giants and big Hollywood stars were in his orbit. Okay, but here's a really critical point we have to make. Just because a name shows up in these documents, it does not automatically mean they're guilty of anything. A lot of people were listed just as contacts. The final judgment on stuff like this can only come from a court of law, based on actual concrete evidence. Now, this whole web really started to unravel long before these files were ever released. The first serious attempt to bring Epstein to justice, well, it exposed a system that frankly seemed designed to protect him, and it led to an outcome that was just a total travesty. It all kicked off in March of 2005. A really brave young woman named Courtney Wild filed the very first police report, and the investigation that followed, it uncovered dozens of victims and just mountains of evidence. I mean, the case seemed like a slam dunk. And yet, in 2008, this secret plea deal was cooked up behind closed doors. And let's be crystal clear here. The charges Epstein was facing should have put him behind bars for the rest of his life. The evidence pointed to this huge, organized trafficking operation that had just destroyed countless young lives. But a life sentence is not what he got, not even close. He got 18 months. And get this, he only served 13 of them. He even got this VIP treatment where he was allowed to leave the jail for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, to go to his office. It was barely a sentence at all. A lot of people have called this deal exactly what it sounds like, the biggest joke in judicial history. It didn't just protect Epstein, it also kept the names of his powerful friends and associates buried deep in those case files. So, for years, it really looked like Epstein had just gotten away with it. But a decade later, thanks to some incredible journalism and the unbelievable courage of his victims, the whole case was blown wide open again, which led to a final, really shocking chapter. In 2018, an explosive report by journalist Julie K. Brown exposed that secret plea deal to the entire world. The public outrage was just massive. So on July 6, 2019, Epstein was arrested again. And this time, there was going to be no deal. But then, just a little over a month later, before he could ever go to trial, he was found dead. Now, the official cause of death was suicide, but the circumstances were, well, they were incredibly suspicious. He'd just been taken off suicide watch. The two guards who were supposed to be watching his unit had both, somehow, fallen asleep. And the security cameras pointing at his cell, they had malfunctioned. It's really no surprise that the phrase Epstein didn't kill himself became a worldwide thing. With Epstein gone, the spotlight immediately turned to his chief accomplice and girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell. And she wasn't just some bystander here. Prosecutors argued she was basically the mastermind of the whole trafficking network, using her status as a socialite to lure in and groom young, vulnerable girls for Epstein. But here's a key difference. Unlike Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell actually faced justice. In June 2022, she was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison for her central role in all of this. And she's serving that sentence right now in a Florida prison. But Epstein's death and Maxwell's conviction, that didn't end the story. In fact, it brings us right back to the beginning, the files. All those documents from the original civil lawsuit, filled with thousands of pages of interviews, flight logs, and of course, names. So what does their release actually mean for us now? So far, we've seen about 30,000 pages of documents get released to the public. But, and this is a huge but, that is just the tip of the iceberg. It's estimated that over 1 million pages related to this case are still sealed, totally hidden from public view. Just let that sink in for a second. Over 1 million pages. That's a staggering amount of information that could have new names, new details, and new evidence that might expose just how far this criminal network really went. The story is nowhere near over. It really just shows you the power of a single voice. I mean, what started with one young woman's courageous report to the police way back in 2005 has now ballooned into one of the biggest scandals of our lifetime, a story about money, power, and the horrific abuse of the vulnerable. So, Jeffrey Epstein is gone, but his shadow looms larger than ever. His crimes can't be hidden, but they definitely can be forgotten, which leaves us with a big question. As more and more of these pages are unsealed, what other secrets buried deep within the Epstein files are just waiting to come to light?